Stacy with the Stacy Esser Group, and this is Michael Amendola.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Thanks for having me back.
No, my pleasure. So we're on part 3 of our All Things Home Inspection, and today we're going to focus on your very unique way of looking at a house when you're doing a home inspection. So tell us about that, please.
So, my unique way. I take the approach, I look at a house as a living being. It's set up the same way a person's body. If you take that approach, you can figure out that it makes it easier to figure out the systems and explain them to my customer, the potential buyer, my client.
A doctor of a body, and you're the doctor of the house.
Sure. We look at it this way. The outside, your siding's the skin of the house, your HVAC systems, your respiratory system, your nervous systems, the electrical system. And if you think of it in those terms, you can kind of relate function, cause, and effect, and it makes it easier to explain it to the client.
That's pretty cool. So we basically have the outside is the skin, the inside is the respiratory.
Correct.
And then the nervous system is the electrical system?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So the plumbing system can be the circulatory system. So if you tie it in that way, it just helps to explain conditions and maintenance.
So it's kind of like the house is a living, breathing thing.
Absolutely. Look,
Right.
a house is new only after the last nail is put in. After that, it ages. Everything ages. Everything needs maintenance. Our bodies need maintenance. We don't stay perfect forever.
All right, so I love the way you look at the house. I think that's pretty cool. And would you be okay kind of just spotlighting one part of what you do
Sure.
for the actual process of the home inspection? So maybe we can go and take a look at the electrical system, or probably you would look at the
electrical panel.
The
How do we
electrical
start with
panel.
that?
The electrical panel. So why don't we take a look at the electrical panel, and you'll show us what you do.
Very good.
All right, so Michael's unscrewing the electric panel. I am his assistant. So basically, we're gonna just take a look at what he does when he's inspecting an electrical panel. And I guess the first thing is you remove the cover.
Yes. So
I can be your assistant. Hold on, let me do that.
one of the few things we open on a home inspection is the electrical service cover. We're not going to move a lot of furniture or cut holes in the sheetrock or whatnot, but it's important that we see the inside of the electrical panel. This is the heart of your electrical system.
So why is it important for you to see what's going on here? What specifically are you looking for, and what would be a red flag that something's not right?
Sure. So there's a number of issues. First of all, we're required to give a description of the amount of power coming into the house, which is your amperage. So we look at your main breaker, which in your house it's located outside by the meter panel. But we would document the size of the panel coming in, whether it's 100 amps or 200 amps. The type of wire that's used to service the panel, whether it be aluminum or copper.
Is there one better than the other? I mean, is copper better than
No,
aluminum?
well, copper's good. Copper's more expensive, but aluminum's acceptable for your service cable. So these are copper. So these are your individual branch circuits. Each one of these goes to a specific section of the house.
And are they always labeled that way?
Okay, well in this case here, you had a very good installer who labeled each circuit inside the panel when he was wiring the house up, so he knew which breaker it was going to.
So we happen to be in my laundry room, just so everybody understands what we're doing here. And this is a secondary panel. So is it typical for a home to have more than one panel, one maybe in the basement and one on a second floor?
On a lot of newer construction now we see this, or homes that have been modified, because if most of the work was performed on the second floor, they could bring their circuits right to the panel here. So if you trip a breaker, you're right on the same floor as the service panel, whereas otherwise they'd have to run the circuits all the way down to the basement, more costly, more difficult. But breaks the house down better. But on the inspection, we're also describing the branch wiring, whether they use copper. Some houses built in the 60s and early 70s or modified in those years use aluminum wiring, which is not acceptable. There's modifications that have to be made for safety, which we would put in the inspection report.
So there's also, are you able to see when you open up an electrical panel if they're still using knob and tube?
In some cases, yes, but that's more specific to looking at wiring in accessible areas of the house, such as the basement ceiling or the attic, or in little scuttle areas there.
So just quickly, so knob and tube is, you want to just explain what that is?
Knob and tube is wiring basically used pre-World War II. It's basically an ungrounded system of wiring, whereas your new wiring, as you see, you pointed out to this copper wire, is a third wire in your circuit. It's a ground wire.
Got it.
It's for overcurrent protection to eliminate excessive surge from going into the body. It will go outside to a ground.
Right.
Whereas knobbed tube doesn't have that ground wire, so you can get more prone to shock, electrocution, and basically the wiring. If you do have knobbed tube wiring, it's basically at this point most likely 80 years at minimum to 100 years old.
So anybody with previous knob and tube wiring should have it
upgraded, and a lot of insurance companies and carriers now, once the house is transferred over, may require it to be upgraded.
I'm bringing it up because we do see it. And we actually also see it when a homeowner actually thinks that they've completely disengaged it or disabled it.
Right.
It turns out that they're still live. So that happens a lot. So that'll be something to check.
A big misnomer is I have a new electrical panel, so my wiring's been upgraded. Not the case. You have a new panel. It's just the panel that's been changed, but the wiring, which is up in the walls and ceilings, may be original.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
So what's a red flag, for instance, when you open up now, in an older home or in a new home, and you see
new home, older home, generally looking for is miswiring of the panel, and by that I mean, here you have individual wire going to an individual breaker. If somebody did their own electric or had potentially handyman adding a bathroom circuit or
a spouse thinking that they were very, very specialized in this to do it.
When they might say, hey, we need some power, we can just put another wire, I need the screw here for that. Well, what happens now is you're defeating the purpose of the breaker. The breaker is designed to handle a certain amount of amperage, just like the wire size you have here. So we're looking for signs of miswiring, meaning a non-professional did the wiring, which can cause a fire or a shock hazard.
Okay.
We're looking for damage, scorching. If we see scorching in the panel in certain areas, it might indicate an overload. The circuit was wired improperly.
So we've actually come across situations where there's evidence of rust inside of an electric panel. So tell us, what does that mean?
So rust is generally an indicator that there's a problem with the service cable coming into the electrical panel.
The service cable coming in, okay.
Which is on the outside of the house.
Okay.
Water could get in through that cable because the cable acts like a conduit and it ties into your electrical panel. Now, if there's a problem or defect with that cable outside, it could introduce water to the panel.
So that's typically where you would only see rust if there had been water introduced.
Correct.
Obviously.
That's yes.
Yes. Okay. So and then what are all these empty spaces for?
That's for additional circuits. So you have room to add on circuits in this panel. Just be careful, don't touch that middle door.
Don't do this at home. Let's start with that.
That's preamble that we plan this ahead of time. We don't typically just open your panel and point fingers at it. Okay.
All right, so that's good. All right.